Hi, welcome back to class. And this week we are approaching the end of our semester, and so we're going to have a little change up. I know there's been a little bit of repetition in the class, but this week we're going to have no quiz and no reading from the textbook. One thing I like to do is try to have different ways of evaluating learning and analyzing, and a big part of a race and ethnic relations class is being able to put on the race and ethnic lens while looking at stories or hearing lectures. And so being able to understand and accept the ideas that are being discussed is a big part of this class. So what we're going to do is we're going to have two different things we're going to look at this week. One is going to be a speech by Patricia Hill Collins, and the other one is going to be a podcast that we're going to listen to on the origins of race and ethnic studies. And so this is a fairly new field. So about the last 50 years this really came about. There were anthropology classes that looked at these concepts, and some sociology classes that did, but the idea of having a program in things like African American Studies or Italian American Studies or Asian American Studies is a relatively new concept. It's about 50 years old, and it actually exists because of an actual event that took place 50 years ago in California. So I'll go through what we have this week. You're going to, of course, continue your Module 13 discussion, and that's one thing you can see in my class. This is a normal thing that I do. I have a discussion go on throughout the whole semester. And I explained at the beginning, that's just a way to be able to demonstrate a competency with the subject. And I think it's an area really rich for engagement. So I like seeing you guys interact with each other and possibly learn from and teach each other a bit. So it's my chance to be the guide from the side with online class. So you're going to respond to the Module 13 discussion. And then there's going to be a video. It's about an hour long, plus a question and answer session with Patricia Hill Collins, who I hope you're familiar with. She's a former president of the American Sociological Association, and she's someone who's going to take the idea of intersectionality and go a little further with it. So you had your initial post last week, 2 weeks ago, on intersectionality. Last week you followed up on discussing what that is, and now we're going to do what sociologists do, and we're going to pivot. So she's going to discuss some other concepts that go along with intersectionality. So she's going to look at things like solidarity, which is a very important concept in looking at ethnic studies. And as you can tell in the class, I tried to highlight some solidarity. I did that with the Italian Americans in Arthur Avenue, and with the religious communities, how they got together after the Jewish, Muslim, and Christian faiths and people got together and worked in solidarity to try to get through any issues they may have. So she's going to pivot and look at that. There's going to be a Dropbox assignment, and I want you to actually answer all those questions with 1 to 2 paragraph answers. If you have short half-sentence answers, you're not going to get full credit for this. So I want these to be well thought out answers. A paragraph or 2 is great. Then there's going to be a podcast. It's and that gets into the idea of how things like ethnic studies came about. And so if you look at some grad school programs, you can find programs in Latina studies and Italian American studies, Jewish American studies, Asian American studies, Hawaiian studies, Native American studies. The list goes on. And so the reason why those exist is because of this event that's talked about in this podcast. What you're going to do is you're going to take the ideas of this podcast and you're going to apply some of the concepts from Collins' speech because there is some solidarity that's discussed in here. I want you to merge these ideas together. Then you're going to post 2 initial posts for the Module 14 discussion. And this one's a pretty open-ended discussion. I want you to discuss a main takeaway that you have from first Colin speaking and then from this podcast. So it's pretty straightforward. This speech from Collins is well recorded, and I do have a hard time finding good recordings of her. She's a great speaker, she's a great storyteller, and she's somebody who you're able to really hold on to. But when you're listening to her, I want you to make sure that you have no distractions. Have a quiet place, take some notes. It'll make this discussion, this assignment be a lot easier, and I think it'll be more meaningful for you. Here is the podcast for the On Strike Blow It Up. To listen to it, click on the podcast button and let's see here. And here is the play button, so you're going to just play it from there. 37-minute podcast. There's an accompanying article, and so this article has some pictures of people involved in this podcast. There's also a video of the student strike at San Francisco State University, and again, more pictures of people who were involved in the initial protest. One thing that's interesting about it is they were able to speak with these people now and were able to see where they went. And so I want you to watch that. You're going to discuss, you're going to write a 1.5 page writing about how this struggle helped to establish the Ethnic Studies department in the college level. So what happened at San Francisco State took place around the country, but because of that particular protest, we now have programs all over the place to thank for this. So you're going to write on that. And again, I want you to go back and discuss Collins. To get full credit, I want some reference to what she discusses in her presentation. As you watch her presentation, I'm sure you're going to notice there's a lot of references to things that we spoke about, or you watch documentaries on or videos on or read about in earlier parts of the class. And so I want you to be aware of that while you're doing your assignment. So again, this won't be a very difficult week. You have the discussion, the 2 Dropbox assignments, and no test. So I think that should be pretty good for you. If you have any questions, make sure you send me an email, and it'll be great to speak with you. And again, if you're signing up for classes next semester, we do offer a class in public administration. It's online, and it's structured a lot like this class. So if you do like this structure, that might be a nice class to look at for you. If you don't like the structure, you can consider it a warning, and maybe you don't want to sign up for it. But it's a very important class for human service students because it explains a different side to human services. So it looks at the actual nuts and bolts of how policy is carried out on the street level or the agency level, and we use some pretty fun cases in that class. So again, if you have any interest in that, make sure you sign up for it, or you can ask me any questions you may have. But have a great week, and enjoy the weather. Hopefully it stays nice.